Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today to be here with me. I appreciate each and every one of you who made time to come here today. Thank you so much. This is a Know Your Rights presentation by CAIR California. My name is Lena. Nice to meet you. I'm the Associate Managing Attorney of our Immigrant Rights Department. And I came here to just tell you a little bit more about your rights because I think it's a really important topic that we need to go over, especially in this moment of rising fascism and anti-Muslim hate and government repression. We need to know our rights, right? It's more clear than ever to me how important it really is for us to take the blinders off and just really understand what's going on. And also just know that, we will not be silenced and we will not be intimidated. And it's so important to be prepared.
No, I don't want to keep you. I mean, really, at this point,
I think that knowing your rights is not a luxury. And honestly, it never was. It's also a spiritual obligation and it's a form of resistance. Okay, so let's move and tell you a little bit about CAIR and what we do. You can see our mission statement here: to enhance understanding of Islam, encourage dialogue, protect our civil rights as an ummah. I believe CAIR is a little bit of a shield for our ummah. We're here for you, from your masjid to your airport to the classroom to the courtroom. We're here to serve the Muslim community in the Bay Area. And I'm proud to say we're one of the oldest CAIR offices in the country, right here in Santa Clara, a little bit farther away, but very close. And it was built by people just like you. So thank you. And people here at CAIR, we have this mission statement, we have this vision, and we have these certain areas that we cover. But as a team, we're here because we believe in the mission. That's one thing that we all share at CAIR. And we recognize that there's no power except with Allah. And when we stand together, there is no power that can break us.
Yeah, I want to do the county, but I'm not even around to do it. It's almost easier if it's being on Zoom for me. You know what?
There we go. Okay, so let's go into the next slide. What does it mean to know what your rights are, right? Actually, I think I skipped a slide. Sorry about that. So just a small disclaimer, this presentation is for the purpose of educating, right? It's not legal advice. But it is a very powerful toolkit that I think everybody should know about. If there are any specific questions that community members have, though, know that our door is open to you. We would love to hear from you, but that is a private conversation for everybody, really. There's specific instances that I would want to have a separate private conversation with you, so please do contact us if you need to. But let's keep it general today for the entire community to know about what their rights are. So again, this is not legal advice. Okay, so now let's go on to the next point. What does it mean to know your rights, right? You have rights under the Constitution, and you should know that you have rights regardless of your immigration status, whether you're a citizen, you're a green card holder, whether you came in on a visa that then expired, or even whether you're undocumented, you still have rights, okay? And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Now, what are those rights, right? You have the right to something called due process. What does that mean? Due process means that if you're going to charge me with something, I have the right to know what the charges are. I have the right to counsel. I have the right to see any and all important documents that you're going to bring to my door. So you have the right to ask questions. You have the right to know what you're up against. Another right, equal protection under the laws. Freedom of speech is a right, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. You also have the right to be free from any unreasonable search and seizure. So those are just a couple of examples of the rights that you have as an immigrant or as a citizen under the Constitution. And it's important for you to know these rights so that you can protect yourself and your family. It's so important for our community right now that we stand together and protect each other, right? And by doing that as a collective, you're pushing against this machinery of injustice that we're facing today. And it can be very powerful. Okay, next, let's go over a little bit about interactions with law enforcement. Many in the community are in fear right now, and I just want to dispel a little bit of that fear with some knowledge, okay? So you always have the right to remain silent, right? However, that doesn't mean that you have to actually be silent. You have to actually say it. I'm exercising my right to be silent, right? And then you don't have to say anything else. You don't have to volunteer any information. In fact, it's better not to. Less is more. Do not say something that you will regret later, okay? Keep it simple. Don't start excusing yourself. Don't feel like you have to justify anything. I'm gonna exercise my right to become silent. That's it. I have the right to an attorney. Do not say anything. Don't sign anything without consulting with a lawyer. Don't feel pressured to sign anything, okay? Because that happens too. In these encounters with law enforcement, happens in many countries, happens here now, unfortunately. At your home, you have very specific rights, right? You don't need to open your door. You have the right to privacy. And the only reason why you should open your door is if you have a warrant in front of you. And you don't have to open the door to see the warrant. You can tell them, my window's over here, you can show me. You can slide it under the door, okay? You don't have to open your home and allow them to interrupt them. But if they do force themselves in, do not physically obstruct them, right? They're still a law enforcement officer. And so just continuously indicate these things that are important, right? And ask to see the warrant. We're going to get into that a little bit later too. And then on the street, you also have rights, right? You have the right to ask if you can be free to walk away, right? And you have the right from unreasonable searches and seizures, right? And you can assert those rights. So don't be fooled by any intimidation tactics, by badges. And also know that if you encounter law enforcement like ICE or the FBI, they may say certain things, but it is not always necessarily the truth. And I'm sorry to say that, but our experience has been that they do and have lied and are more likely to lie again. So do not trust everything that is said to you. Just remain vigilant, and less is more. Okay, so next I'm going to go into what law enforcement really needs. This is where knowledge is power. Like I said, when you encounter law enforcement, I hope it doesn't happen, but it may. Ask to see their ID. You are allowed to ask questions. Who are you? Excuse me, what organization are you with? What is your badge number? And you can see all of those things through the window. Again, remember, you don't have to open your door. And you don't have to be searched as well. Say, do not consent to this search. I do not give you permission to enter my home. I do not wish to speak with you. Please leave. And if they are allowed to go into your home, I want you to be looking at the documentation. This is very key, okay? And this slide over here is probably one of the most important slides in this presentation because it shows you what an ICE warrant versus a judicial warrant is. I was a little bit bigger, but I'll tell you the substance of what we're seeing here. An ICE warrant. It says Department of Homeland Security on the top. It usually has charges that you're not here legally, you're an alien, you're an immigrant. It has that language, right? And then you will not see a court of any kind on this, and you will not see a judge's name on any of this. When you see something like that, question it and don't open your door. They will try to say and present it as a warrant to scare you and make you open the door. Next, we have a judicial warrant. This is an instance where you would have to let them in. A judicial warrant here, we can see it clearly states at the top United States District Court, right? And then it has something called a search warrant clearly labeled. In addition to that, it has the signature of the judge at the bottom. So those are the two most important things that you really need to look at. Now, moving on, if you are arrested, God forbid this happens, we also want you to be prepared, right? And I know it's easier said than done, but try to remain calm and remember, stay silent. If you're somebody that's nervous when they talk, I totally understand that. But in this instance, just try to be prepared and think about what you're going to do before you do it. I think it's really good to be mentally prepared for these types of instances because it's a scary thing. You know, when an officer comes to your door, you don't know what's going on. But always remember it's in your best interest to stay silent and to call your lawyer. You can memorize CAIR's number, 408-986-9874. You can call us, right? You'll have to fill out an intake line and get to us, but you know, there's also instances where we may be able to help in an emergency. So if you have the FBI at your door, you have ICE that's down the street, they're arresting your neighbors, call us. We're here to listen to you. In addition, it's always important to tell these officers if you have any severe medical conditions, right? Just, you know, if it would be harmful for you to be, you know, going into an ICE detention, clearly state that. I need my medication. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow that I cannot miss. You know, but again, don't volunteer too much information, right? Also, make sure you memorize any emergency contacts, right? Emergency contacts. In this day and age, we don't memorize numbers anymore, but now we have to start doing it again, right? What's your spouse's number? What's your mom's number? What's your kid's number? My kid, she memorized my number. I was so proud of her. She's only 8 years old, but you know, we can do it. We can memorize each other's numbers, and we might need it too, because if you ever become arrested, you'll have the right to make a certain amount of calls. Okay. All right, and then we also want to go over a little bit of this because it's been very contentious, is what are your rights to traveling? You know, especially as a Muslim, we really need to know what our rights are here. So as a US citizen, you have the absolute right to enter the country and to leave the country, right? However, you could be subject to what they call secondary screening, right? And they can pull you over, they can start asking you a lot of questions. And you need to know what are the questions that they can ask me and what are the questions that they can't. Some of the allowable questions that they can ask you about your travel history, where you're going, where you're coming, sometimes about your possessions, right? But when it comes to your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, social media activity, these are extremely invasive and you don't have to answer these types of questions, okay?
Oh, yeah.
You don't owe them
Sure,
your
sure.
opinions,
I'm
not
ready
on
to go.
Palestine,
I'll message
not
one
on
of
your
my
imam.
cousins.
Just
He's
remember
just
that,
home.
you know, always less is more when you're dealing with law enforcement. Now, non-citizens. So non-citizens, they still have certain rights, right? You have the right to remain silent, you know, but Customs and Border Security could delay your stay. They can hold you at the airport if you don't answer certain questions. So there is that. And again, questions about travel, destinations, possessions, purpose of visit is a big one, right? If you have a visa and you came in with a visitor visa, your purpose is to visit, not to stay and marry your spouse. Remember, less is more. I have a visitor visa. You can see it right here. It says it's a visitor visa. I came to visit. Non-citizens also don't sign anything without understanding it fully. And I know, and intimidation is real in these instances. So don't be intimidated. You don't have to sign anything. I've seen people sign away their green cards, you know, and it's a difficult situation to be in. And then if you're ever detained, ask, why are you detaining me? And make note of who is you're detaining and who is in the location. And I would also add, in addition to family and emergency contacts, make sure that you know immigration information about your family, right? About those emergency contacts. Let them know, look, I'm a US citizen or I'm a green card holder. This is my A number. things like that, so that they can find you too, right? If you're ever detained, you need to be found. All right, so let's go back and pivot back to travel. You also want to make sure you secure your devices, right? And that's really important in this day and age because we live on our devices. All of our private information exists there. Your entire life is there. Your financial information is there. That being said, make sure you use strong passwords, and I know it's really inconvenient, but disable Face ID, especially if you're going on a trip. Because if they stop you, they're gonna take your phone and they're gonna ask you, can I go on your phone? If you say no, they'll say, okay, and they just put it right up to your face and they open your phone anyway, and they're allowed to do that. If your phone is taken, ask for a receipt. Write down the agent's name and number, and I think that's completely within somebody's rights. You're taking somebody's property. Can you please tell me what your name is and what's the purpose for? When traveling, always make sure to try to log out of your social media accounts, because if they get on their phone, they can look at that too. And often they're looking for any reason to, to give you issues with your entry and exit sometimes. So just understand those risks and assert your rights. Okay, along the same vein, I wanted to go over a little bit of safety planning for you and your family. In addition to noting that trusted contact person and keeping your emergency contacts in your mind, it's a good idea to have legal aid contact in your mind as well. What's CAIR's number? What's my lawyer's number? If you have a criminal history, what's my criminal attorney's number? Whatever is relevant to you, just try to think ahead. If you have small kids, do you have alternative childcare, God forbid? Make sure that you always have a copy of your work permit and your green card. If you have a pending asylum application or a pending anything, make sure you have a receipt notice for that so that you can prove that you have a valid need to stay in this country. And then I'm sorry to say this too, because we all have young kids and we don't want to scare anybody, but we want you to be prepared. Plan for travel, right, with your kids. Let them know what would happen. If something happens to me, you need to go to auntie. You need to go to uncle. Call your grandma. This is what you do, okay? All right, and then I wanted to touch a little bit on community safety and solidarity, because the truth is we are stronger together. And so we together need to create this safety plan, but we also need to use buddy systems. Go to events together, know your neighbors. There's a lot of value to knowing your neighbors. And in Texas, where I grew up, you know your neighbors, but in California, not as much. I know some of them, but it's really powerful to know your neighbor. And then if you're taken, your neighbor can say, hey, my friend next door was just taken by ICE and they're here and here. It really helps to build those community connections and stay involved. Show up for each other in person, online. Record anything that you feel like is an injustice. If you don't have an expectation of privacy wherever you are, if it's a public forum, you can record. There's nothing wrong with that. And you should record, right? They should be accountable for what they're doing. Okay, so just a couple of final reminders I wanted to impart upon everybody today is your rights are real. Even if they're challenged by law enforcement, they can't take them away from you. You are not alone, right? Don't be intimidated. Stay together, keep each other safe, be prepared, and know that CAIR has your back, your masjid has your back, Allah is always there and seeing everything. And lastly, please do stay in touch with us. You can go to info@sfba.cair.com. Our phone number is 408-986-9874. And then we have a very convenient QR code here. So I hope that I gave you a little bit of information that would allow you to go and maybe teach it to somebody else. because with knowledge is power, right? And we're stronger together. Thank you so much. So do we have time for some questions? Yeah? Yes, and we do have an announcement, but I need the details in the script. So we do have a couple of citizenship clinics that are coming up, and I think it's so important, especially right now, that if you're eligible for citizenship, that you need to apply. Because remember, like I said just a second ago, if you're a citizen, you have the ability to enter and exit the country, and nobody should be questioning you about that right. But even if you have your green card and you feel like you have the right to travel, every time you come back into the country, right, you are considered asking for admission again, and they can look at your entire record and they can scrutinize that to find a reason not to allow you to enter or to give you some issues. So please do come to our citizenship clinics. They're free. CAIR, we will have a citizenship clinic coming up on Friday, May 23rd at the Millbrae Library, and we'll be there from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're gonna offer legal consultations, and we will help with citizenship applications as well. We have language services in English, Arabic, Urdu, Spanish, Dari, and Pashto. And you know, it's just a really great idea, even if you have questions, to come to us right now. We're here for you, and we set out this time to meet the community. So please do stop by. Thank you. Are there any questions at all?
So,
yes.
You said you have the right to remain silent. If you're a non-US citizen and you get asked questions, you remain silent. Are they allowed to refuse entry?
If you're at an airport, yes. So it's context specific, so law enforcement, right? If you're going in an airport and you're like asking for entry into the country, the right to remain silent does not cover like, okay, I need to show you my passport, right? Or what is your visa? Like I said in the presentation, it definitely depends. So thank you for asking again. So it depends on what type of questions they're asking, right? They can ask about where you're going, right? That's a legitimate ask from somebody at the airport. What is your visa? How long do you intend to stay? What is the purpose of your visit? Because that's often why visas are given. We have visitor visas, we have business visas, so they can ask about that. That's all fair game. They can ask for a copy of things to see. But things they can't ask about is, oh, why are you wearing a hijab? Or anything about your religion, anything about, you know, your family. They should not be asking you about your political opinion. They should not ask you about protests. You know, these questions are off limits. And, you know, use your judgment too here. Like, think about it. When they ask you a question, is this something that would be reasonable for them to ask in this setting? You know, and if they're asking about which masjid you go to, that's an unreasonable question. It's not relevant. That's a good question. Thank you. I hope I answered that.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Question about the N600 form.
Sure.
So I heard that if your child became naturalized before he turned 18, once the parents gained citizenship, that even though my son has an American passport, I was told that it's not sufficient just to have that. It's just a travel document, but it doesn't really grant him citizenship. He needs to fill out an N600 form. Is that accurate?
Well, your son has something that's called derived citizenship, right? He has derived citizenship from his parent. If he has at least one parent who is a United States citizen and he's under the age of 18. However, in order to prove that he's a US citizen, you do need to have evidence, right? And a passport is one form of evidence, right? And then a naturalization certificate is an even stronger form of evidence. So I would recommend getting a naturalization certificate as well.
That's only for people who are not born.
Yes, for children who are not physically born here, but have a parent that's a United States citizen. Yeah, of course.
I can ask you a common dance question that I get asked.
Yes, please.
Do you know people who have green cards with the country?
Wow, that's a really loaded question. So I'm going to repeat the question, and I know it's on everybody's mind. Do I recommend people with green cards to leave the country? And the answer is honestly, and I know it's not the most attractive answer, it depends. You know, it depends on a lot of different things. And that's why, again, if you have a question, you can definitely call us and for a consultation. But in general, let's say you're a green card holder and you have a criminal record, right? Just remember that when you're going out of the country, you come back, you're an applicant for an admission again, and they can screen your entire record, and that includes criminal records. I've had green card holders who basically were almost losing their green card because they have a criminal record. So be careful with that. Also, you know, I would be mindful of what your current situation is like with regards to the countries you're going to, right? And who you're traveling with. There's a lot of considerations to be had, but I think that we should all be cautious right now, quite honestly.
Someone traveling, what is advisable? What is the time frame of when should you return before them raising an eyebrow and say you're not a citizen
Okay.
and you go out of the country? So, I mean, what would you suggest?
That's a great question. So I'm going to repeat it so everybody can hear. So if you are a non-citizen, what is the advisable amount of time that you should travel? And again, the answer is it depends on your circumstances, right? So if you're a green card holder, do not go out of the country for more than 6 months, right? Because if you ever apply for citizenship, you may be questioned about your intent to stay here. You know, so they see that you're out for 6 months, automatically you no longer have the presumption that you want to maintain residence here. So now you have to prove it. You have that green card because then they question whether you're trying to abandon your status. So if you do stay longer than 6 months and you want to eventually apply for citizenship, you're going to have to prove why you left for so long and that you still want to reside here. And if it's over a year, right, if you've been outside over a year, the clock resets, right? So then I have to wait another 5 years to qualify for citizenship and before I can apply. So just be very mindful when you're traveling, especially with a green card. You know, you want to be very careful and have your documentation as well, right? You are a resident, you're an applicant for permanent resident in the United States. That's what a green card means. So you need to have proof of your residence. Do I have my leases? Do I have bills that prove that I live here? Those are really important documents to keep as well. You want to make sure that you have all that lined up. And in addition to your emergency contacts, in addition to your plan, in addition to the documents that prove that you're a green card holder, you know, you also want to have proof that you reside here, that you have contacts, right, with family members. If you have U.S. citizens, family members know who they are. You know, it's all of that. But definitely evidence of residence is really key. Yes, Lena?
Just a quick question. I know that when you're talking about green card holders, mostly at risk, but just was wondering about people who have acquired citizenship, like they were not born here, but like they acquired it as an adult. Are they at any risk in terms of like travel bans and things like that? Or is there any cases like that?
They shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be, and it's definitely less of a risk. Right? It's definitely less of a risk. And I would say that if you're a citizen, then no, there should not be issues with that. But I temper that with the knowledge that in the last Trump administration, there was an office of denaturalization that was opened up specifically to take people's citizenship away. So just know about that. There may be a possibility, but it's a very, very strong thing to have citizenship. Yes.
Have you guys had any experiences of ICE, like people using fake warrants to try to like enter people's homes or arrest them or whatever?
When you say fake warrants, what do you mean exactly?
Like the one that you were showing that isn't signed by a judge or like, yeah.
Well, I would not call it a fake warrant. They've named it themselves. It's an ICE warrant, right? But they may try to make it appear like it's official enough that you have to open the door for them, right? So they can say, this is a warrant for your arrest, or this is a warrant I have to take you into custody. And then you need to ask, what type of warrant is it? And take a look at it, because unless it's a judicial warrant specifically, they cannot come in. But yes, they have done that. Sure.
If I give up my US citizenship, am I allowed to come back into the country?
Well, if you abandon your US citizenship, then you would not be allowed to come into the country unless you have a valid way to do so, right? If you get a visitor visa, for example, then you would have to reapply for those options, right? Visitor visa, student visa, if somebody petitions for you after the fact, which I don't know why you would do if you already abandoned your status, but you would have to have something, right? Parole, for example, in order to legally come back in, yes. In order to legally come in.
Yeah, so just a normal visit visa you can't deny me.
Well, yes, it depends. Every time you apply, you're applying for a new application, right? And if you have a visitor visa, you need to be here for the purposes of visiting, right? Oh, can they deny? I think that's a very specific question that requires a lot of research. And so definitely I encourage you to come to us and fill out an intake line if you're thinking about anything like that. It's a very important decision to make, and I've spoken with people about it before, but it's very context specific, and it also depends upon your country of origin. Any other questions? Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you guys for having me.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm happy to help. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Oh no, I'm happy to be here, meet you guys. Lena, yes.
This is called
I'm meeting more Lenas lately. I never used to meet Lenas.
I've been emailing and I wasn't sure. I